The empty chair. In a room of 500 delegates from across the galaxy, Princess Aelindra sat alone. Not because there were no seats available. The Grand Hall of Station Meridian had thousands of chairs, beautiful chairs, expensive chairs, chairs that cost more than some planets earned in a year. But no one wanted to sit next to her. Aelindra was the last princess of the Velkhari Empire. 10 years ago, her people ruled 40 star systems. They had armies, they had wealth, they had respect. Then the Dravosi came. The war lasted 3 years. When it ended, the Velkhari had nothing. Their worlds burned, their people scattered like dust in solar wind. Their emperor, her father, died, broken and forgotten. Now the Velkhari were what the galaxy called a protectorate, a polite word, a clean word. It meant they belonged to the Dravosi. It meant they had no voice, no vote, no power. It meant Aelindra was princess of nothing. She looked around the grand hall. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy filled the space with noise and color. The tall, insect-like craven clicked their mandibles in rapid conversation. The silicon-based monoliths hummed with internal light. The Dravosi ambassadors laughed loudly, their scaled faces shining under the crystal chandeliers. Everyone was talking. Everyone was negotiating. Everyone was making deals that would shape the future of civilizations. No one looked at her. Aelindra had arrived at the Galactic Unity Summit 4 days ago. In 4 days, exactly 3 people had spoken to her. The registration construct who processed her credentials, a cleaning drone who apologized for bumping into her, and a server who told her the refreshment table was for voting delegates only. She was not a voting delegate. She was a courtesy invitation, a formality, a ghost from a dead empire that the galaxy had already forgotten. The chair beside her was empty. It had been empty for 4 days. At first, she watched the chair with hope. Maybe someone would sit. Maybe someone would want to talk to her. Maybe someone would see her as more than the daughter of a fallen kingdom. By the second day, hope became doubt. By the third day, doubt became acceptance. By the fourth day, she stopped looking at the chair at all. She had learned something important in those 4 days. Hope was just disappointment that had not arrived yet. It was better to expect nothing. Nothing could not hurt her. A group of Dravosi delegates walked past her table. One of them, a senior ambassador with golden scales and cold eyes, glanced at her. His lips curled into something that was almost a smile. "Amazing," he said to his companions, loud enough for her to hear. "They still let the Velkhari attend, like inviting a corpse to a wedding." The others laughed. Aelindra did not react. She had learned this too. Reactions gave them power. Silence took it away. She kept her back straight. She kept her eyes forward. She kept her face calm. Inside, something cracked, just a little, just enough to hurt. She thought about leaving. She could return to her quarters. She could pack her things. She could take the next transport back to the small moon where the remaining Velkhari survivors lived in quiet poverty. No one would notice. No one would care. But she did not leave. Her father's last words before he died echoed in her mind. "They will try to make you small. They will try to make you invisible. Do not let them. Sit straight. Hold your head high. Even if you are the last Velkhari in the universe, be a Velkhari." So she sat straight. She held her head high. She looked at the empty chair beside her and felt the weight of loneliness press against her chest like a physical thing. 4 more days. She had to survive 4 more days. She could do this. She had survived war. She had survived loss. She had survived 10 years of being forgotten. She could survive an empty chair. The grand hall continued its noise around her. Delegates laughed and argued and planned their futures. The galaxy spun on without noticing her. And then something changed. A sound, small, simple. The sound of a chair being pulled back. Aelindra did not look. She had learned not to hope. Probably someone needed an extra chair for another table. Probably they would take it and leave. But the chair did not leave. Someone sat. She felt the presence beside her, warm, different, not Dravosi, not Craven, not any species she recognized. A voice spoke, soft, strange, using words shaped differently than any alien tongue she knew. "Is this seat taken?" Slowly, Aelindra turned her head, and for the first time in 4 days, someone was looking directly at her. Not through her, not past her, at her. He was human. The one who stayed. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy. Some called them reckless, some called them emotional, some called them dangerously unpredictable. The older species whispered that humans were too young, too wild, too strange to understand. But there was one thing the galaxy never mentioned about humans. They could see the invisible. Aelindra stared at the creature beside her. She had read about humans. Earth, a small blue planet on the edge of nowhere. They had joined the galactic community 50 years ago, barely children by cosmic standards. This human had brown skin, dark eyes, and short black hair. He wore a simple gray uniform with a small blue planet symbol on his shoulder. No gold, no jewels, no signs of importance. He smiled at her. Not a political smile, not a careful smile, just a smile. "I asked if this seat is taken," he said again. His voice was warm, patient. Aelindra blinked. "No, it is not taken." "Good." He settled into the chair like he belonged there, like sitting next to the most ignored person in the room was exactly where he wanted to be. "I'm Commander James Mercer, Earth Coalition, Diplomatic Observer." "Observer?" he repeated. "Means I watch, I listen, I learn." He shrugged. "Earth does not have voting rights yet, too new, so they send me to observe." Aelindra understood. He was like her, present but powerless, visible but voiceless. "I am Princess Aelindra," she said quietly, "of the Velkari Empire." She waited for the reaction, the flicker of pity, the subtle withdrawal, the polite excuse to leave. James nodded. "I know." "You know?" "I asked around. First day here I noticed you sitting alone, asked a Craven delegate who you were." He leaned back in his chair. "He told me your story, your war, your people, what happened." Aelindra felt her chest tighten. "Then you know I am no one, princess of a dead empire. You do not have to sit here." James was quiet for a moment. He looked at her with those strange, dark eyes. Then he said something that stopped her heart. "I wanted to sit here." 4 words, simple words, but Aelindra had not heard words like that in 10 years. "Why?" she whispered. James looked around the grand hall, at the laughing delegates, at the powerful ambassadors, at the endless games of status and strength. "Because," he said slowly,
Where I come from, we have a belief. My grandmother taught me. She said the true measure of a person is not how they treat the powerful. It is how they treat the forgotten. He turned back to her.
Everyone here forgot you, Princess, but you are still sitting straight, still holding your head high, still here. His voice softened. That takes a kind of strength most of these delegates will never understand. Aelindra did not know what to say. Her throat felt thick. Her eyes burned with something she refused to let fall. Before she could respond, James stood up. Her heart sank. Of course. He had said his kind words, now he would leave. They always left. But James did not walk away. He walked toward the refreshment table. Aelindra watched, confused, as he picked up a plate. He filled it with food, different foods, colorful foods. Then he picked up a second plate and filled that too. The server construct moved toward him. Sir, the refreshment table is for voting delegates only. James looked at the construct. His smile did not change, but something in his eyes turned cold, very cold. These plates are for me, he said calmly. I am very hungry. Problem? The construct hesitated, then stepped back. James returned to the table. He placed one plate in front of Aelindra. You have not eaten today, he said simply. I noticed. Aelindra stared at the plate, then at him. How did you know? I watched. 4 days. The servers skip your table, you go to the refreshment area, they tell you no, so you stop trying. He pushed the plate closer. Eat. Around them, delegates were staring, whispering. A human, serving a Velkari, sitting with the forgotten princess like she mattered. The Dravosi ambassador with golden scales watched from across the hall. His cold eyes narrowed. Aelindra picked up a small piece of fruit. She ate it slowly. It tasted like kindness, like being seen. You will make enemies, she said quietly, sitting with me, helping me. The Dravosi will not like it. James picked up his own food. He ate calmly, unbothered. Princess, he said between bites, I have been making enemies since I learned to walk. A few more will not hurt. For the first time in 10 years, Aelindra smiled. It was small, fragile, like a flower growing through cracked stone, but it was real. The next 3 days changed everything. James sat beside her at every session, every meal, every gathering. When delegates looked through her, he looked at her. When others walked past, he stayed. They talked for hours. He told her about Earth, blue oceans, green forests, cities that touched the sky. She told him about Velkari, the crystal mountains, the twin suns, the songs her mother sang before the war took everything. He listened, really listened, like her words mattered. On the 7th day, a shadow fell over their table. Aelindra looked up. Her blood turned to ice. The Dravosi ambassador stood before them. His golden scales gleamed. His eyes promised violence. Human, he said, his voice dripping with poison. You have been sitting with this creature for a week now. Do you know what happens to those who associate with the conquered? James did not stand, did not flinch, did not look away. Tell me, he said calmly. The ambassador leaned closer. They share their fate. Silence fell across the nearby tables. Delegates watched, waited. Aelindra's heart pounded. This was it. The moment James would see reason, the moment he would apologize and leave, the moment she would be alone again. But James Mercer did something strange. He smiled. Not a nervous smile, not a polite smile, a dangerous smile. Ambassador, he said softly, where I come from, we have a saying about threats. He stood slowly. He was shorter than the Dravosi, smaller, weaker, but somehow, in that moment, he seemed like the most dangerous thing in the room. The saying is this: threaten me, and I might forgive you. He stepped closer to the ambassador. His voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried across the silent hall. But threaten someone I have chosen to protect? That is a different conversation entirely. The Dravosi's eyes widened, just slightly, just enough. No one had ever spoken to him like this. No one had ever dared. "You are making a terrible mistake, human," the ambassador hissed. James did not blink. "No," he said quietly. "You are." The galaxy learns why humans are dangerous. The Dravosi had conquered 12 star systems. They had crushed empires, burned worlds, enslaved billions. For 300 years, no species had dared to challenge them openly. But they had never met a human who had decided someone was worth protecting. The Grand Hall fell silent. 500 delegates watched the confrontation unfold. The golden-scaled ambassador towered over James Mercer. His claws clicked against each other, a warning sound, a predator sound. "You dare threaten me?" the ambassador hissed. "I am Lord Cravex of the Dravosi hegemony. I have destroyed species older than your entire civilization." James did not step back, did not look away, did not blink. "And yet," he said calmly, "you are here threatening a man over a chair." Cravex's eyes flashed with rage. He raised one clawed hand and snapped his fingers. 4 Dravosi security officers appeared from the crowd. They wore black armor. They carried weapons that could burn through steel. "You have insulted a senior delegate," Cravex announced loudly. "By Summit law, I demand your removal. Humans are clearly too primitive for diplomatic gatherings." The security officers moved toward James. Aelindra stood up. "No, he did nothing wrong. I will speak to the council. I will explain." "Silence." Cravex did not even look at her. "The conquered do not speak." James held up one hand, calm, steady. "Before your officers touch me, I have a question." Cravex paused, curious despite his anger. "What question?" James reached into his uniform pocket. He pulled out a small device. It looked simple, harmless, just a standard data recorder. "Do you know what this is?" James asked. Cravex frowned. "A recording device? So what?" "So this." James pressed a button. A holographic screen appeared in the air. Images began playing, videos, audio recordings, timestamps. The first clip showed Aelindra approaching the refreshment table, a server blocking her path, voting delegates only. The second clip showed Dravosi delegates walking past her, like inviting a corpse to a wedding, laughter. The third clip showed servers skipping her table, again and again, 4 days of footage. The fourth clip showed Cravex himself, moments ago. "The conquered do not speak." James let the recordings play. The Grand Hall watched in stunned silence. "Summit Protocol 7, James said, his voice carrying across the hall. "Section 3, Paragraph 12. All delegates, regardless of voting status, shall receive equal treatment in matters of basic dignity, service, and respect." He looked directly at Cravex. "You have violated this protocol. Not once, not twice, 47 times in 4 days. I have evidence of each violation, time-stamped, verified, admissible." Cravex's scales turned pale. You recorded?" "Everything," James smiled, that dangerous smile again. "Humans are observers, remember? We watch, we listen, we learn." He turned to address the entire hall. "By Summit law, any delegate may file a formal discrimination complaint. If valid, all negotiations freeze until the matter is resolved. Investigations can take months, sometimes years." Whispers erupted across the hall. Months of delay, years of frozen deals, billions in lost trade. The Dravosi had 17 major treaties pending approval. James held up the data device. "I am prepared to file this complaint right now, unless—" Cravex stepped forward. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "Unless what?" James glanced at Aelindra, then back at Cravex. "Unless the Dravosi formally apologized to Princess Aelindra, publicly, now, and guarantee her equal treatment for the remainder of the summit.
Silence. Complete, absolute silence. A human, a member of the youngest species in the galaxy, demanding a public apology from the Dravosi hegemony for a princess everyone had forgotten. Kravex's scales trembled, his jaw tightened. Every instinct told him to strike, to kill, to show this primitive creature what happened to those who challenged Dravosi power. But 17 treaties hung in the balance, billions in trade, years of negotiation, all because of one human and a recording device. "You think you have won?" Kravex whispered. "You think this changes anything?" "I think," James said quietly, "that you have a choice to make. Pride or profit? Which matters more?" The moment stretched. Seconds felt like hours. Then slowly, Kravex turned toward Aelindra. The words came out like poison being extracted from a wound, each syllable dripping with hatred. "I apologize for any disrespect. The Velkari delegate."
The assassination attempt came on the 9th night. Not for the human. James Mercer was too visible now. Too many species were watching him. Too many delegates whispered his name with something close to admiration. Killing him would create a scandal, an investigation, questions. But the princess? The forgotten Velkari? Who would care if she simply disappeared? Aelindra was sleeping when her door slid open. No sound, no warming, just a whisper of air that did not belong. Her eyes opened. Instinct. The same instinct that had kept her alive through a war that killed millions. A shadow stood in her room, tall, scaled, Dravosi. The assassin moved fast. A blade gleamed in the darkness, silent, deadly, designed to kill without trace. But Aelindra was not just a princess. She was Velkari. Her people were warriors before they were rulers. Her father had trained her since childhood. She rolled. The blade missed her throat by inches. It cut through her pillow instead. Feathers exploded into the air. Aelindra grabbed the small lamp beside her bed. She swung hard. The lamp shattered against the assassin's face. He stumbled back, hissed in pain. She ran for the door. A second assassin blocked her path. She had not seen him, had not sensed him. He grabbed her arm, twisted. Pain exploded through her shoulder. The first assassin recovered. He raised his blade again. Aelindra screamed, not for help. She knew no one would come. She screamed in rage, in defiance. If she was going to die, she would die fighting. The blade came down and stopped. A hand caught the assassin's wrist, a human hand. James Mercer stood in the doorway. His eyes were not warm anymore. They were not kind. They were something else entirely. They were terrifying. "Wrong room," he said quietly. Then he moved. Aelindra had never seen a human fight. She'd heard stories, rumors, but stories were just words. This was something else. James twisted the assassin's arm. A crack, a scream. The blade clattered to the floor. The second assassin released Aelindra. He pulled his own weapon, a plasma pistol. One shot could burn through bone. He never got the shot. James was already there. He grabbed the pistol, redirected it. The shot hit the ceiling. Then James drove his elbow into the assassin's throat. The Dravosi collapsed, choking, gasping. The first assassin tried to run. James caught him by the neck, slammed him against the wall. "Who sent you?" James asked. His voice was calm, terrifyingly calm. The assassin spat at him. "You are dead, human. You and your pet princess. The hegemony will—" James squeezed. The assassin's words turned to gurgles. "Wrong answer." He squeezed harder. The assassin's eyes bulged. His scales cracked under the pressure. "James!" Aelindra's voice was weak, shaking. "James, stop!" James looked at her. For a moment she saw something in his eyes, something dark, something that scared her. Then it faded. He released the assassin. The Dravosi slumped to the floor, unconscious. James moved to Aelindra. His hands were gentle again, careful. He examined her shoulder, her cuts, her bruises. "You are hurt," he said softly.
I am alive. She looked at him. Because of you. How did you know? I did not know. He helped her stand. I felt something was wrong, so I came. You felt it? James paused. His jaw tightened. I was watching your door every night since Kravex threatened us. Aelindra stared at him. You, every night? When did you sleep? Sleep is optional. He tried to smile, failed. Your safety is not. Aelindra felt her heart's crack, not from pain this time, from something else, something warm and overwhelming and impossible. James activated his communicator. Earth Coalition Command, this is Commander Mercer. Emergency extraction requested. Velkari delegate in danger. Repeat, emergency extraction. Static, then a voice, cold, official. Commander Mercer, your request is denied. Earth cannot interfere in internal delegate matters. It would compromise our diplomatic standing. James stared at the communicator. There was an assassination attempt. She needs protection. Then station security can handle it. Earth will not be involved. That is final. Return to your quarters. Do not engage further. The line went dead. Aelindra watched James. His face was stone. His hands trembled slightly. Your government, she said quietly. They will not help? No. James put the communicator away. They will not. Then what will you do? James looked at her, and in that moment Aelindra saw something change in him, a decision being made, a line being crossed. My government gave me an order, he said slowly. They told me not to engage. He picked up the assassin's dropped blade, examined it, then tucked it into his belt. I'm choosing not to hear that order. Aelindra's eyes widened. James, that is treason. They will destroy your career. They might imprison you. Maybe. He offered her his hand. Can you walk? Where are we going? James helped her towards the door. His grip was firm, protective. To the medical bay, then somewhere safe. Then he paused. Then we make the Dravosi regret they ever heard the name Mercer. Behind them, the unconscious assassins lay in the darkness. Outside, station security finally arrived. Too late, always too late. But as they walked through the corridor, something else was happening. Aelindra did not know it yet. James did not know it either. But across the galaxy, on distant moons and hidden stations, the scattered survivors of the Velkari Empire were receiving a transmission. A video recorded by someone in the Grand Hall, a human standing against the Dravosi for their princess. For 10 years, the Velkari had accepted defeat. They had believed their empire was finished, their princess forgotten, their future gone. But now they watched a human risk everything for the woman they had abandoned, and something long dead began to wake. Hope. The queen who was chosen. They say empires fall when their people stop believing, but empires also rise when someone gives them a reason to believe again. On the 10th day of the summit, the galaxy witnessed something impossible. Aelindra stood in the medical bay, her wounds bandaged, her body exhausted. James had not left her side for 18 hours. He stood by the window, watching the stars like a guardian watching for threats. Then his communicator buzzed, not from Earth Coalition, from Station Command. All delegates report to the Grand Hall immediately. Priority Alpha. James frowned. Priority Alpha means war. Aelindra's voice was hollow. It means someone has declared war. They moved through the corridors. Other delegates rushed past them, fear on their faces, confusion, panic. The Grand Hall was chaos. 500 delegates shouted over each other. Screens displayed sensor readings. Warning lights flashed red. And on the main display, filling the entire wall, was an image that stopped Aelindra's hearts. Ships.
Hundreds of ships. Velkari ships. The design was unmistakable. Curved hulls like crescent moons. Crystal engines that glowed with ancient power. Warships that had not flown in 10 years. Impossible, Aelindra whispered. Our fleet was destroyed. Our shipyards burned. How? The station commander's voice cut through the noise. Unknown fleet has exited hyperspace at the edge of the system. They are not responding to standard hails. They are broadcasting on all frequencies. One message, repeating. The commander pressed a button. A voice filled the hall, old, strong, speaking in the Velkhari tongue. Then translation software converted the words to Galactic Standard. This is Admiral Velrath of the Velkhari Remnant Fleet. For 10 years we have hidden. For 10 years we have waited. For 10 years we believed our empire was dead and our princess forgotten. The voice paused. When it continued, it trembled with emotion. We were wrong. A human remembered her. A human protected her. A human showed the galaxy that our princess still matters. The screens flickered. A new image appeared. The video from the Grand Hall. James standing against Kravex. James bringing Aelindra food. James refusing to leave her side. If one human believes she is worth protecting, the Admiral said, then we will protect her too. The Velkhari are not dead. We were only sleeping, and now we are awake. Silence fell across the hall. Then chaos erupted again. The Dravosi delegation screamed for action. Destroy them! They are rebels, criminals! But other species hesitated. The Velkhari fleet was not small. 300 ships, hidden for a decade, armed and ready. And they had come for their princess. Lord Kravex pushed through the crowd. His golden scales were dark with rage. His eyes found James and Aelindra near the entrance. You, he snarled at James. You did this. You planned this. James shook his head. I planned nothing. I just sat beside her. Lies! Kravex drew a ceremonial blade. Guards moved to stop him, but he was faster. He lunged at James, and Aelindra stepped between them. She caught Kravex's wrist. Her grip was iron. Her eyes burned with something that had been dead for 10 years. Fire. You tried to kill me, she said quietly. You failed. You tried to break me. You failed. You tried to make me nothing. She twisted his wrist. The blade clattered to the floor. You failed. Kravex stumbled back. For the first time, fear flickered in his eyes. This was not the broken princess he had mocked. This was something else. This was a queen. Aelindra turned to face the Grand Hall. 500 delegates watched her. The forgotten princess, the ghost of a dead empire. She spoke. For 10 years I sat in rooms like this, ignored, invisible, worthless. I believed what you believed, that I was nothing, that my people were finished, that our story was over. Her voice grew stronger. Then a human sat beside me. She looked at James. He stood still, believing in her. He did not sit beside me because I was powerful. I had no power. He did not sit beside me because I was useful. I had nothing to offer. He sat beside me because I was alone, because I was forgotten, because where he comes from, that is exactly when someone needs company the most. Tears fell down her face. She did not wipe them away. The galaxy measures worth by power, by wealth, by strength. But humans measure worth differently. They measure it by how you treat the ones everyone else has abandoned. She stood straight, head high, a princess becoming a queen before their eyes. Today I make a declaration. The Velkhari Empire chooses Earth as our eternal ally, not because humans are strong, but because they are kind. Not because they have power, but because they see value where others see nothing. She looked at Kravex, at the Dravosi delegation, at every species that had ignored her. You forgot us.
One human remembered, and that made all the difference. The hall was silent. Then the Craven delegation stood. Their leader bowed toward Aelindra. The Craven Collective also seeks alliance with Earth. Then the monoliths, then the Fenare, then others, species who had been bullied, forgotten, overlooked. One by one they stood, for Earth, for humanity, for the species that saw the invisible. That night, Aelindra found James on the observation deck, the same place where he had told her about his grandmother, the same stars, the same silence, but everything was different now. "You changed my universe," she said softly. James shook his head. "I changed it yourself. I just sat beside you." "Why?" She stepped closer. "Why did you really sit beside me that first day? The truth." James was quiet for a long moment. He stared at the stars. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "Because you reminded me of someone." "Who?" "Me." He turned to face her. "When I was young, my father left. My mother worked 3 jobs. We had nothing. I sat alone in school every day. No one talked to me. No one saw me." His eyes glistened. "Then, one day, a girl sat beside me. She did not know me, did not owe me anything. She just sat down and said hello." He smiled, that warm smile that had changed everything. "That girl became my best friend. She taught me that loneliness is not cured by power or money or status. It is cured by someone choosing to sit beside you." He reached out, took Aelindra's hand, a human gesture, warm, real. "When I saw you alone in that hall, I saw myself, and I decided that no one should ever feel that invisible, not while I could do something about it." Aelindra squeezed his hand. Her hearts were full, overflowing. "My people will sing songs about you," she whispered, "the human who awoke an empire, the human who chose a forgotten princess. They will remember you forever." James laughed softly. "I do not need songs. I just need to know you're okay." "I am more than okay." She stepped closer. "I am found." Outside the observation window, the Valkyrie fleet held position. Inside the station, new alliances formed. The galaxy was changing. All because one human sat in an empty chair. Years later, historians would write about the galactic shift, the moment when humanity rose from newcomers to the most sought-after allies in the known universe. They would analyze politics, economics, military strategy, but they would miss the truth. The truth was simpler. Humans did not conquer the galaxy with weapons. They conquered it with kindness, one empty chair at a time.